The most heated and contentious economic debate is determining which geography or institution has the most influence over economic growth. Geography states that natural resources are the primary determinant of economic growth. However, institution states that socioeconomic conditions are the primary determinant of economic growth. Here in my research, I demonstrate that institution and geography have no effect on growth in the new time period. This three literature states that institutions have a significant positive correlation with growth, but Olumede's research states that negative insignificant results in terms of growth. The two literatures that I have collected that geography have a positive correlation and significant effect on economic growth. This model used the ordinary least squares equation to determine the correlation between economic growth, institution, and geography. In this research, there are five equation models. These datasets include annual growth of GDP per labor, initial GDP per labor, investment per GDP, school, depreciation, rules of law, and distance to equator. Using the most recent data, I examined the impact of institution and geography on economic growth. In this research, I look at which of the two variables has the most influence on economic growth. The institutions are the rules of law, and distance to equator are the geography's data. The study includes global data as well as samples from three group countries: Asia, Africa, and rest of the world. The study decided to use data from 1996 to 2019. By analyzing all models from Model 1 to Model 4, the research shows that the variable rule of law has a positive insignificant relationship with economic growth. In this case, it means that if the rules of law in country increase, the value of economic growth will be increased. The regression results for the distance to equator variable have a positive insignificant with economic growth. Then, the supporting variables such as initial GDP, investment, school, and depreciation remain consistent when used by this research. Institution and geography will be compared to see which of the two variables has the greatest effect using better standardized. As a result, in the world sample, geography has a greater influence on economic growth than institution. In the table above, there are Model 1 to Model 4 of the econometrics equation from a sample of 51 Asian countries. Rules of law have a positive but insignificant correlation with economic growth. Even though the number of samples is different, the rules of law variable in Asian produce the same result as the world sample. Geographic variable yields different results from the global samples, where geography has a negative correlation that is not significant to growth countries. The rule of law have a negative beta. It is possible to conclude that the geography has more influence than the rule of law in Asian sample, and there are no different results from the world sample. According to the results of the African sample regression with the four econometric equation models, the rules of law have a positive but insignificant relationship with economic growth. Regardless of the sample size, the rules of law variable in Africa produce the same results. However, the geography variable has a negative correlation that is insignificant to growth countries. The regression results of the African depreciation experience changes. However, the other variables shows the same results. Here we can conclude the rule of law has a positive beta, while the distance to equator has a negative, indicating the rule of law has a greater influence on African growth than the geographic variables. The table above shows the regression result from the rest of the world using four econometrics model. Based on the regression result, it is possible to conclude the rule of law has a positive but insignificant relationship with economic growth. The regression result for the distance to equator show a positive but insignificant relationship with economic growth. However, the supporting variables such as initial investment, school, and depreciation remain consistent. In this table shows the rules of law variable has a weak effect due to its negative standardized beta. As a result, geography has a greater influence on economic growth. The conclusion: there is a positive but not significant relationship between the institution and economic growth. Geography has a positive and insignificant relationship with economic growth, but it has a negative correlation in Asian and African samples. According to the findings of the four samples, geography has a greater impact on economic growth than institution. However, the findings of this paper indicate that neither institution nor geography have a significant impact on economic growth in this time period.